Hey everybody, Brett Etheridge here, founder of Dominate Test Prep and the Dominate Test Prep podcast, where we recently did an episode where I interviewed the Associate Director of Admissions at the Duke Fuqua School of Business. And there was a segment of that episode that I wanted to share with you here because I think it's going to be really helpful for you. We obviously talked about a lot of things in the episode. So again, you can head over to the podcast page, go find the Dominate Test Prep podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's episode 20. And we talked about a lot of different aspects of the application process and a lot of things specific to Duke Fuqua. But there was a segment where I played this myth versus reality game. And I simply posed a lot of the common questions I get from you guys. Questions about the application process, the admissions process, some things that maybe they're fact, maybe they're fiction, right? Maybe they're myth, maybe they're reality. And I posed those questions to Lauren to get her assessment. Are they myth? Are they reality? What's the truth about some of the most common application and admissions questions? And by the way, while she is the admissions director or associate admissions director at a business school, everything she talks about is also relevant to the graduate admissions process in general. So I think her answers will help you as you're thinking about your own admissions experience. So go ahead and take a listen to my myth versus reality question segment with Lauren Sutherland. First one, myth or reality? You have the best chances of getting in if you apply round one.
Myth. You can apply any round. We admit students in every round, but if scholarship money is important to you, apply as early as you can with a strong application because that does have a limited number of funds. So apply early in that regard. It's also helpful if you find yourself on the wait list to give yourself another round of opportunity as opposed to waiting until round 2 or 3. So there's benefits to round one, but your chances of getting in are not any different.
I'll go ahead and go to this one next since you just mentioned it. Myth or reality? There's nothing I can do to get off the wait list other than hope and pray.
Huge myth. I manage the waitlist process at Fuqua, and it's very much a dynamic process with us. We want to hear more information from you while you're on the waitlist and admit students in subsequent rounds, every round after our first one. So it is dynamic as long as you are communicating with us and reiterating your interest. Over 10% of our class last year was admitted from the waitlist. So not a black box, definitely an important part of our admissions process.
Myth or reality? A student needs a minimum of 2 years work experience before applying.
Myth. We do not have a minimum years of work experience at Fuqua, but if you are on the lower end of work, make sure that the work you're demonstrating in your resume is impactful and that it's very clear why this is the right time for you to get an MBA.
Myth or reality? You have way too many applications, so you don't actually read every word. So in an essay, for example, just as long as you have a good, strong opening paragraph and conclusion, that's what's most important.
Myth and reality? No, we do read your essays back like in full, but having a strong opening and a strong closing paragraph is a really important part of writing and an important part of catching the admissions committee's eye. So I like that part of the comment is a reality, but it is a myth that we are going to read and we're going to pour a lot into your essays. So make sure you're doing the same.
Okay. Myth or reality? You should always write the optional essay.
Myth. Only use the optional essay if you need to. We have 30 pages of your application to read and don't want to see your essay from another school or superfluous information. It is critical for the people who need the optional essay to use it, but can be detrimental if you're just writing to write.
Okay. Here's one I get a lot, obviously kind of the GMAT versus GRE question. I know Fuqua accepts both the GMAT or the GRE, so here's the question, myth or reality? The GMAT is really preferable to the GRE when applying.
Myth. We want you to take the test that's best for you. With another caveat, if you're going to need the GMAT for recruiting purposes, so there are some companies that would prefer to see a GMAT, make sure you're doing your due diligence in that regard to take the test that's best for you in the long run. But for admissions, we want the test that best showcases your abilities If you haven't taken either, start with the GMAT because it is the business school test. But if you are not performing as well as you know you can, feel free to try the GRE and submit both scores to us if you do take both.
Myth or reality? If I can't score over 700 on the GMAT, it's not really worth applying.
Myth. Our average GMAT at Fuqua is a 705. So almost half of our applicants are under, or half of our admitted students are under that 700 mark. So set yourself up for the best success you can academically, and take the test again if you feel there are points on the table, but don't be distracted from applying just because of a test score.
Myth or reality? If I have a family member who went to Fuqua, I have a better chance of getting in.
Myth, but you should let us know about that. So we want to know the Fuqua connections that you have, because that gives us intel on what you might know about the community, and that your experience as an applicant should be a little bit different than someone who doesn't have any Fuqua connections. So that is a part of our application that we ask you to complete, and your family member or close friend should write an endorsement for you. Not an official letter of recommendation, but a peer endorsement on your behalf.
Okay. Myth or reality? It's easier to get into Fuqua if you went to Duke undergrad.
Myth. I was racking my brain a little bit to think on statistics there. Duke undergrads have a great education background, so you have that going for you, but there are 6 different components of the application that you need to be successful in order to be admitted. And so just shining in one of those won't be enough to make that path easier.
Perfect follow-on to that. Myth or reality? Your GMAT or GRE score and your undergraduate GPA are the most important parts of your application.
Myth. They're just one component. At Fuqua, we average those together along with the strength of your undergraduate institution to give you an overall academic rating. But the GMAT or the GRE is the one piece of your academic profile that's in your control now and that you can make improvements to. So if you're out of undergrad, don't fret on your undergraduate GPA, but do spend time on your test score if you're worried that the admissions committee might be worried about your ability to succeed.
Okay. Final one, myth or reality? If I can't get into a top 20 school like Duke, it's not worth going to business school.
Myth. You need to evaluate your personal return on investment for an MBA program. For some people, doing a part-time program or an online program might be the best situation for them in their current life stance. But if you know that you want to get into a top MBA program and that's best for you with your career goals, fight for that, really prepare. And if it doesn't work out for you the first time around, don't be afraid to reapply. Many schools look favorably upon their reapplicants. Fuqua is one of them. Similar to our waitlist process, between 10 and 15% of our class every year are reapplicants. So don't give up on that dream, especially if it's the one that's for you.
All right, welcome back. What did you think? Hopefully you found that helpful. I thought it was really interesting to hear her answers to some of those questions. If you have other questions, by the way, post them in the comments area below. We'd love to hear from you. I can pass them along to Lauren directly, or I'll try to answer your questions if you have anything that I didn't ask. But of course, you can also head over and listen to the full interview with Lauren. Go over to podcast.dominatetestprep.com or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. It's episode 20. You can hear my full interview with Lauren. And then while you're there, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Maybe you weren't aware that we even had a podcast. There's lots of good stuff out there already. We've got lots of great episodes kind of in the works. And so go ahead and subscribe so you're alerted every time we drop a new episode, so that we can continue to empower you to dominate your standardized test and the admissions process in general. So with that, I'll leave you to get back to your studying, to go subscribe to the podcast, and we will see you soon so that I can continue to empower you to dominate your test. Take care.